So what I was saying is going back to the fact that this is one unit. If you decide to be, going further in your studies with business and management in particular, this is something which is a recurring topic which you will keep studying, at some point in time throughout level 4, 5, and even in master's degree, bachelor's or master's degree level, because this is an enormous topic. And this is an area of interest for all companies globally. They expect people who are going to be specializing in the business and management sector to have, clarity in terms of thoughts specifically related to, this particular module. Okay, so let me share my screen and let's start. What I've done is I've opened up a couple of documents that we will look at. One is basically looking at the unit specification brief, which is as usual that we have, which basically looks at giving us some guideline in terms of what topics we're going to cover, and looks at addressing some of the key tasks which are required to be done in the assignment. So I will start with a bit of an overview, and the second bit that I have opened apart from that is basically the presentation that we are going to go through. Now there are lots of slides in this, but in order to cover learning outcome 1, there are some of these slides which are very well, very self-explanatory, and the idea would be to go through some of the content on the slides is, it's not more than 10 to 12 words, but the idea is we want to look at key terminology, because again, as I mentioned in the previous unit, the units that you study at level 3 are going to be the building blocks for some of the content that you will study in further education. And marketing as such is a very broad topic. It can be divided into a lot of things that we pick up in terms of key terminology within this module will actually branch off to become individual modules. So things like market planning, things like segmentation, things like consumer behavior, retailing, when we look at advertising, sales and promotion, these will become individual modules if you choose to specialize in the area of marketing going forward. But at level 3, this particular module which ATHE has put together is an attempt to essentially give you an overview of the subject, and also to kind of kickstart some sort of curiosity in the minds of the young learners, that if this is a field that they feel they want to be in, which is if they are looking at a bit of creativity, if they are looking at a bit of adventurism, passion, enthusiasm, if they like interacting with customers, sending out messages, this is a very exciting field to get into. And the overall picture would be to look at, I think, covering in about 4 learning outcomes, see the evolution of this particular sector, of how it started with traditional rules of marketing, and now it is transforming into something called digital marketing. I think in the learning outcomes that we will go through, some bits will be things like market research, which is important that we will look at. We will look at the techniques of how market research is done, understand the marketing mix, the 4 Ps as we used to call them, but now they've become 7 Ps. We look at the needs and demands and wants. What is the difference between a need, a demand, and a want, so that you are able to differentiate from a marketing perspective. For me, I will look at dwelling into some of the details of, in the last learning outcome, making you understand how the concept of e-commerce, e-marketing, digital marketing, internet marketing, various words used interchangeably, but how this particular, sector or, this particular specialized field is evolving in the last 10 years to include, wherein everything pretty much is now available. You can buy, you can sell anything that is available today using digital marketing or internet commerce. So all in all, a very exciting unit. I think we will enjoy, kind of going through some of the concepts of this unit. It'll be a bit of a refresh, because this is such a field which always keeps you, on your toes, because you're always looking at finding out new messages and new themes that you can create and then reach out to your customers. Is that okay? Now, this particular topic involves a lot of learning. There are 2 or 3 books which I have studied over the years, in terms of understanding the key concepts. One of the gurus, marketing gurus, as we call it, that I would suggest, if this is an area of interest to look at, would be Philip Kotler. He is by default the father of modern marketing, and there are lots of books that he's written. One of the books that you can pick up, and we will make it available on the Moodle, which will be Marketing Management. And I think the current volume, which is currently is I think volume 17 or 18. So over the years, he's done a lot of refresh. That book is like a Bible. If you have to understand marketing, this is one book I would suggest. If you don't read anything else, if you don't look at any other book, this is one book that I would suggest that you definitely look at from a point of view of studying. If this is a topic and this is an area or a career that you want to look at, within this field. There are other books which have been written by Kotler. There is another author called Kotler, and they have they are also very well renowned in this field, but they have covered specific topics. Kotler, for example, has done strategic management, marketing management, so how marketing can be used as a strategic tool. And when you look at Kotler, he has done a lot of research, and he's published a lot of books in brand management and how branding, creation of a branding can become a key tool for you to look at marketing. So there are lots of books available, but I think the one that we are going to look at for this particular course would be a book by Pearson publication, which is normally prescribed for the BTech level 3 diploma in business management. And that book is very concise. And I think when I give you, the PDF, which could be made available through the Moodle, is something which will make for very concise reading. But at the same point in time, it will give you the depth and the knowledge required to develop, your own knowledge in this area of, in this particular field or this unit of, marketing. Okay. Very briefly, let me just have a quick look so I can also kind of reference this for you now. I'm pretty sure we've got the extracts of this particular book, which is kind of hands-on and would also be very useful for you to look at doing the assignments. So I shall look at this if I can't find it now, but yeah, I will. Sorry, I think what I will want to do is basically show that now. Yeah, that's the one that I'm going to try and upload. In your case, it will cover most topics. We will look at in a great amount of detail, and we'll make for a concise reading as far as some of the topics that we are looking at covering from this aspect. So it's about, I think, 55 pages, but you can look at this from a point of view of the unit and the assignment work. But at some stage, what I would suggest is look at starting to read what you call the book from Philip Kotler, which we'll have on Moodle. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good stuff. So let's start this. Let me quickly send this text. Right. So what I've done now is we're looking at learning out one is to understand the broader principles of marketing. Why, what is marketing? Starting with the definition, looking at, why do we need the concept of marketing? How do we look at the customer needs and wants and demands? And then the idea would be to slowly and gradually delve into other areas of marketing, which I was kind of mentioning. At some stage when you study in the future, they will all become independent modules. So we will reflect on some of these key functions which come under the umbrella of the term marketing. Things like segmentation, market planning, research, public relation, advertising, promotion, social media. They're all various tools under the umbrella of marketing, but we're going to just briefly touch on them in this particular unit so that you know that these are all tools and techniques, or various disciplines under this umbrella of marketing, which can be used when you work as a marketing manager, or when you work within a job role wherein your job involves for you to be able to look at understanding consumers' needs and wants, positioning your products and services accordingly. So let's look at starting off with, there are various definitions of marketing. What is marketing? In very plain, simple terms, this is, because this is something that we do time and again. It is not, let's look at an example of, before even we look at this definition. So when you look at Tesco, for example, right? A large format retailer, correct?
Correct.
Now, large retailer, they sell lots of products and services. So you have fruit and veg, grocery, non-grocery items. You have some financial services. They do clothing. They are in electronics, electricals, telecom. Why do you think a company like Tesco needs to, send out messages to consumers? Why do you think they have something like a Tesco Club card? Why do they need to reach out to their consumers?
So that they can get them to advertise and make money.
So what you've said is correct, but I'll just rephrase it. So when you look at most companies, just drawing on the first unit that we have studied. So we have studied different types of organization. Tesco is a private limited company or a large private sector enterprise. Its main aim and its objective for itself and its for shareholders is to make profit. Now, when a company looks at making profits, that means it has to generate repeat sales or repeat purchases of its products and services from its consumers. And when you look at that process of repeat purchases, wherein you bring back the consumer time and again into your stores to be able to buy, as you rightly said, to sell products and services again and again, allows you to create business, and that business allows you to create relationship with your customers, and which means you can look at the process of loyalty, customer cup cards, which they have, send out offers. And the idea is to basically look at creating engagement with them through some shape or form, which allows them to come back, allows them and invites them back to the stores to be able to buy those goods and services again and again. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
So when you refine that process, what we've discussed with an example is maybe some sort of a end-to-end process. So, they're a business, they need to sell products and services. In order to get the message out, they basically need to, get the message out in some way or form. Medium could be a print advert, sending out some offers through the club card, maybe, providing some discounts or doing some advertising on TV. So these are routes and mediums through which they reach out to the consumer. And when they do that, what it does is the effect of that would be that customers then walk into the stores to buy their goods and services. So end to end, this is nothing but a process which allows companies to create value for customers. When I say value for customers here, means they're able to generate profits, and those profits provide dividends to their shareholders. So value for their customers, it could be value in terms of buying goods and services, which is at an economical price, affordable price, and that is again value for customers who are buying products and services, and allows them in the long run to build a strong relationship with the customer for them to bring them back again and again into the stores. Right?
Yeah.
So this is nothing but a process, and the process requires the companies to create activities to be able to reach out to consumers, and that is nothing but the marketing, the definition of marketing. So something that you can create once and then implement number of times to successfully engage with your customer will be defined as something called a process of marketing. Now let's look at what does the process of marketing include. The process of marketing includes understanding what the customers want. Correct? Now it is not going to be easy for them to look at, let's put it this way, if Tesco does not know what their customers want, there is no way that they can get the right message out to you, right? An example would be that if what is your favorite car? Which is your favorite brand of car?
Ferrari.
Sorry?
Ferrari.
Ferrari. So for example, if you like Ferraris, now assuming at some stage you're looking at buying a Ferrari, you are more interested in getting news about the car, the brand, the company, because this is something which excites you, which interests you. But if you receive mailers from companies like Fiat or, Vauxhall or Toyota or, Audi, then again, these are also types of cars that you can buy, but this is not in your consideration set. So it is important for Ferrari to know that they have a customer in you, maybe a customer in waiting in you, or in some cases, you need to let them know that you are interested in buying their products, and they have to then look at a match. Sometimes there's a mismatch, but at the end of the day, what the message needs to go out is that there are lots of customers which want to buy this car, and they have to find a medium to be able to reach to these customers so that at some stage, you can actually become an owner of a Ferrari or become a customer of Ferrari. So for companies to understand, and an example that I would give here is, when you say Ferrari, that's fine. But an example that I give here would be, say, for example, of a car like Tesla, which basically currently is trialing out a new technology, which is driverless cars. A lot of other companies are doing it. They are the electric car, which is selling at a premium as high as the price of a Ferrari. And, a lot of customers are interested in buying the Tesla cars because what they have been able to do is create a demand, but they have also been able to create a demand because they have studied the market by researching consumers' needs and wants to understand why are some of the other cars and variants which are available in the market, like the Lexus, the Nissan, they are not in the consideration set of the consumers, but the Tesla is, because they always, because they've done a research, and the consumers' research points out to the fact that people are, yes, interested in electric cars, but they want the car to be stylish, they want the car to be fast, they want the car to be luxurious, and that is the market they've been able to kind of address. These are the factors they've been able to address, and because of which they have helped create a different type of market wherein people are now willing to buy cars which are costing as high as the S model from Tesla is as high or as expensive as some of the best known sports cars like the Ferrari. So in the whole process, what the company has to do, if it has to be successful in launching, marketing, selling their product, what they have to look at is they have to understand the needs and wants of the customer, which customer they want to go to, how they will, what are their preferences, and how will they reach out to those customers. Then once you've understood that, we need to understand how do we reach out to the customers, what kind of message is to be created. And then when you look at that, we start getting into the steps of, creating a plan. Even if we look at a small example, like every day you go from your house to your workplace, or, I go from my house to my workplace, I always have a plan. What time you decide to leave, how much time you will spend in traffic, what time will you leave, what time will you reach. There's some sort of a conscious, unconscious plan that you have, which you create, which allows you to every day do the same activity. So similarly in marketing, because these activities are repetitive, you have to have a plan which needs to be created, which addresses all the various factors required for you to be able to reach out to your customers. And then towards the end, we'll also look at is that when you are doing this planning, what you're looking at doing is you're looking at planning the most efficient, time-effective route to be able to go from your home to office. So similarly, when you do marketing activities, when you do promotions, and when you reach out to your customers, you have to look at a most effective plan which will bring the results in terms of either increase in business, market share, profit, and they will bring out happy customers. So we will understand the whole process by understanding this particular value chain, and for which we'll start with something called, understanding the market and the marketplace by understanding the customer needs. Okay.
Yeah.
If I look at, if you imagine, say 100 years back when Ford Motors introduced the car, in 1908, if I'm correct, and my memory serves me right. When they introduced the first car, there were not many customers for it because of affordability. Not many customers could afford to buy a car which was probably at that point in time about $300, $400. Right? Now, as economic prosperity has increased post the World War, industrialization, people started to work, public sector enterprises came about, people had permanent work available, more of them, more and more worked in factories, had permanent jobs. That led to the creation of economic prosperity. And from then on, what we see is the rise of consumerism. That means consumers had preferences. Globalization, industrialization allowed barriers to be kind of knocked off. And that could mean that the customers could buy products and services which they felt kind of cater to their demands or cater to their needs. So let's look at differentiation of the word. When we look at, what is a need, what is a demand, and what is and how do we differentiate these? Now, when we look at needs are basically states of depreciation. So, for example, what the Maslow's theory of, have you heard about Maslow's theory?
Yeah.
Okay. So Maslow was obviously a scientist, and he came up with a triangle which basically is called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So he basically classified needs according to three different levels. So he classified them as physical, social, and individual needs. And these needs are the first thing which every human needs to look at meeting. So what happens is when you look at classification of these needs at three different levels, the first needs at the bottom of the pyramid, which he created, were needs that I need to get food, clothing, warmth, and safety. That means you're looking at food, clothing, and a place to stay. Once those needs are fulfilled, then you start looking at social needs, things of belongingness and affection. And once when you're accepted in the society and you have a stature and you have the basic needs which have been fulfilled, what you then look at is the needs which are individual. That means they're individualistic needs of, the kind of showing knowledge, the knowledge that you've gained with experience. You want to kind of talk about that knowledge. You want to self-express, that you want to express yourselves, and you want in general yourself to be known. So there's a esteem, kind of a self-esteem, building up of a self-esteem which tends to happen at the top of the pyramid, and these become needs which are individual needs. So when we understand the marketplace, what we need to be able to do is understand where the customer is in terms of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, whether the needs for that customer are physical, social, individual, or they are in bordering self-esteem needs. So imagine when you start working, you're quite young, when you will start working, or you're working right now, you want to buy or get the best brand of things, for your use. Because you're single, you have all the money available to you in terms of disposable income. You might go out and, obviously buy some of the best things, like you want to buy, say, the suits, for example. You want to wear the best shoes. But at some stage, when you have the basic needs of having to have, say, for example, clothing or basic set of things required to work within the office, which is a requirement of having a suit and a tie, you'll probably buy a suit and a tie when you start to work. But at some stage, if you start earning better and your economic status increases or becomes better, what you start to do is you start to buy branded clothes. And at some stage, what you do is you only buy branded clothes because you feel you have that economic income to be able to afford them. And then slowly and gradually, these kind of needs, differentiate how you're moving upwards in your career and in terms of, moving and understanding your needs. Similarly, companies need to understand the consumers and their demand for these needs. So if they understand that you are going to be looking at, casual suits and things like that, the customers who shop at Marks and Spencer, H&M, or for example, Suits for You, will look at the basic need of, the basic need is that you have to have suits and suit and tie. So, you're going to be looking at maybe buying 5 or 6 suits, and you want something which is economical, something which is sturdy enough and which can be used for daily use. And that is how customers, companies starts to segment customers on the basis of the needs of why they want to buy. So when you go to a showroom and you're looking at saying, I need to buy a suit and a tie. So the questions which are asked by the person who is serving your, the salesperson there in the store, is trying to ask and find out information about why are you buying this? What is the need of buying a suit? And if you say that I'm going for an interview and I want a very good suit so that, I look quite great in that and all that, and then the person might ask you a counter question. Then, are you going? What kind of an interview you're having? You say, okay, I'm having a managerial interview, or I'm interviewing for a general manager position. Then he or she immediately who's serving you gets an idea that here the person is looking at getting into mid to senior management. The positioning in terms of mid to senior management, they will recommend you suits in the region of 300 to 400 pounds upwards, or 400 to 500 pounds upwards, because you're going in to impress, you're going in for a senior position. And these are questions which the salesperson is asking you to get to understand. Why are you buying a suit? What is the need for buying a suit, a new suit? Not that you are not wearing a suit or you are not buying the first suit, but the idea is to try and position somewhere to get information to know what is the need of, this immediate need to purchase a new suit. Correct?
Right.
Now let's look at wants. So when we say, a customer needs, and then we go to, this is a slide which I'll show you in a second. But when I look at that, what I want to be able to do is understand why, what is a want? Why do we look at differentiating between a want and a need? So wants are the form that need to take as they have shaped by culture and individual personality. Now, if you're a person who wears suit on a daily basis, after a point in time, you will have a particular preference, and that particular preference would be that, if I wear a suit, I normally wear slim suits because, it goes with my physique, my personality, and, that is something which, suits me well. But the other thing could be that at some stage, you would start to look at, when you've got into that habit of wearing suits, you will also look at that at some stage you have summer suits, at some stage you have, suits which change with season as well. And here, you could be buying a new suit because your want is to look at being a part and parcel in terms of your image being displayed, that you are in tune with the times. So if this is autumn, you have something appropriate that you're wearing. If it's winter, you're appropriately changing the type of suit you're wearing. So the need is you want to have a suit, the basic one, the basic need. But when it comes to a want, you have a choice and an assortment available, and you are at that level wherein you are able to change according to the the style or the pattern, which is in terms of, say, seasonal cycle, and you are able to change that because you want to make sure that the ones that you're wearing are going to be suiting the preference, meeting your preference, and also suiting your personality. Okay? And at some stage, when we look at demand is wherein you have the financial power to be able to demand that the best from the salesperson, saying that, okay, I've shown some of these suits that you've shown me, but I want something much more premium, or something which is much more expensive, much better in terms of quality. And the reason why you want to do that is because you have that affordability, and there is a demand at your end to be asking for the best which is available in the market, because you are looking at something which is the best in the market. Is that okay? So when we look at now summarizing, if I look at particular thing in this summary slide, what I need when I look at needs, it's basically you have a basic demand for that particular thing because you want to work within the office. But when it comes to a want, you've been working for a number of years, you have the affordability, and here you want to marry your personality with the requirements to wear suit in the office. And when it comes to demand, you have the buying power, or you have the economic status to be able to buy the best in that category. And that is how I would look at differentiation of need, wants, and demand. And this is the basic fundamental which companies look at when they position, segment, target their customers for their products and services. Okay? Now, let's briefly look at a couple of things, some key terms that we want to look at. Now, what are market offerings? What do you say what do you think could be the meaning of the word market offering?
Stuff that organizations offer customers.
Yeah, so for example, here, if you look at the latest example of the iPhone, which has got launched. Now, the iPhone introduction and the launch happened somewhere in September, the unveiling of the product. But when the product is physically available for sale in the market, that means you can go out and buy the product. means that the product is now readily shippable, and this is something which the company can offer to its consumers in the market. So market offering is nothing but, a combination of products and services, information, experiences offered to a market to satisfy the need or want. So Apple has launched its product only in a set specific markets initially, because they feel that the affordability, the need, and the want to buy the new phone, the iPhone 8 or the iPhone X10, is going to be higher in certain markets as compared to the others. So it has launched the products in US, UK, Germany, Japan, and Australia initially. Reason being, these are the most favorable markets for its products to get immediate traction and sales. And then slowly and gradually, what they're going to do is, depending on the income levels, the demand in the market, the products they've sold in the past, they then start expanding the number of markets in which the products are offered. And that process is gradual, because what they want to be able to do is maintain supply chain, but at the same point in time, keep milking the customers, or in terms of, I use the word milking is because their product, they are selling it at extreme premium and people are willing to buy. So they want to introduce in markets first wherein the people have the affordability and the will to buy, and then later to markets wherein they feel the product will be bought by customers, but only a few customers. Okay. There are certain terms that we look at. So going with that, marketing myopia. Now, what is myopia in general? Myopia in general is a word which is associated with vision. So when we look at myopia, this is a concept. It's a term which is used in context of vision. It talks about something. It means basically nearsightedness. That means short-sightedness. So people, when they look at marketing products and services, when you look at business, when they look at marketing products and services, they sometimes exhibit a concept called marketing myopia. That means they're too short-minded, or they are planning some of the, they put some strategies in place which are very short-sighted. That means they're very, very narrow. That means they want to look at sales of those products only for 2 months, 3 months, in some cases a day, 2 days, 3 days, something like that. So this particular concept of marketing myopia is primarily used as a term which basically shows that, in some cases, sometimes companies, when they look at launching products, their fundamental idea is that they want to kind of, bring across the product into the market for a short point in time. And then after that, what they want to do is, and this short interval or short point in time where they want to bring the product is primarily looking at, bringing it to, looking at, say, countering competition. Sometimes it is to do with looking at disrupting competition in the market. So what you see is products sometimes when they're introduced because they want to launch something and disrupt the competition, provide a cheaper alternative to the consumers in the market to take away sales from others. And in some cases, they would look at getting, large amount of sales happening. So when you look at the Christmas season, this particular festive season, which has started off now, companies are bringing in products which will only be available for the next 2 to 3 months. You look at a lot of television companies, Samsung, LG, they will introduce 47-inch or 53-inch or, some product variants which is specific for the festive period. And their reason of introducing this from a point of view of bringing this in is to look at getting sales and only sales to increase their revenue during this period. So they are focused on meeting, the immediate demand in terms of sales demand during the festive period, as against ensuring that this is a product which is going to be available over a long period of time because it's a normal run-of-the-mill product. Right?
Correct.
Have you seen something like that? For example, when you see during Christmas, there are lots of offers which will come out on 32-inch or 40-inch. But when you go and buy a television in the market, normal size is acceptable. When we used to look at is, you had a 22-inch, 27-inch, 32-inch, 42-inch, 52-inch, 55-inch, and then upwards of 65 and something like that. But during this festive period, what will happen is short-sightedness in terms of short-term objectives to increase sales and get revenue. They bring out models which will be having sweet price points, and they'll not be regular product variants. So they will introduce something like a 45-inch or a 47-inch, right? And that will be slightly lower in price than the 50-inch or 52-inch television, and people will be looking at buying because they have a set specific budget during the festive period. Correct? Another concept is when they look at increasing, sale of certain products, they look at the exchange concept. So what they sometimes do is you can bring your old phone, recycle your old phone, bring your old TV in, this in, and the idea is to exchange it for a new. That means they're trying to get repeat purchases from an existing customer by offering some incentives to buy off the old and used product in exchange for a new one. So you see this in the case of Dyson vacuum cleaner. Bring in an old one, get a £60 off, whether it's working, not working. But actually you don't see much of a price advantage. It's just a marketing gimmick, because what they tend to do is reduce the price slightly, but because you are getting a £60 for your old vacuum cleaner, you will end up buying something which is £300 or £400. Correct? Have you seen that as offers?
Yeah, I've seen that in many.
Yeah. So in the phone industry now, it is very prevalent. Even if you bought an iPhone 7, which is a 128 gig, you paid £800 for it, or 900, I don't know, just as an example. But what they will say is upgrade to the iPhone 8 and you get £180 for your new phone. And you would be surprised. Some of the customers will be willing to take that offer, but some of them will be surprised. I paid £850 for it a year back, and now it's only worth 180. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So exchange is an act of obtaining a desired product from someone sometime by offering something in return. So you want the iPhone 8, you want to upgrade to the iPhone 8. So what sometimes customers will do is they will go in with the exchange and say, okay, I'm getting a new product, that's fine. It's going to be on installment plan. I'm paying the money upfront. So I'm okay as long as I get the new one in. So these are techniques which companies use, from time to time, and what we look at is understanding some of these. Now, there are key terms like customer value and satisfaction. We've always heard, when you hear PR interviews and you look at press releases, the top management talking, they say our products offer customer value. Our customers are very happy. There is 98% customer satisfaction amongst our products. What do these terms mean? So customer value means if the customer is willing to buy a product at a certain price, and that price is something which is giving profitability to the company at that price, basically means there is a match between what the customer is willing to pay and the company is willing to sell. And sometimes this concept of customer value and satisfaction is what we look at when we look at understanding expectation of our consumers, and that expectation can be measured in terms of value which the customer places to buy your products, or the money the customer is willing to shell out to buy your products. And in return, when they buy the products, how satisfied are they with their usage of that product?
Right.
So sometimes when you see and hear customers saying that, I bought the Bosch dishwasher and I'm quite happy with it, because it does this. So that in general goes to show that the customer who bought that Bosch dishwasher, say, I don't know the price, but I'm just guesstimating, say 400, 500 pounds, is happy with that product, and at the end of it is satisfied. And that's one of the reasons that the customer is able to talk and offer a word of mouth in terms of publicity for that particular product. Yeah. So what marketers or companies have to do in general is they have to find a match between what the customer is willing to pay, and against that price, how satisfied the customer is going to be. And that concept of understanding customer value and the price they are willing to pay to be satisfied for the products and services is important, because that helps them segment the market and define the pricing of the product in the market vis-a-vis the consumers want, but also with vis-a-vis the competitors' pricing in the market. Okay. Now, there are other bits that we look at. Sometimes what they do is they send you a gift voucher or a discount card. Nowadays, because of Christmas coming in, you'll have lots of offers which will come through your door, which will talk about, they will send you a voucher of £50. If you buy anything worth 300, you get £50 off. And the reason why they're asking, doing this promotion or this sort of kind of promotion at this point in time is that they know that with research and with data that they've had over the years, what they know is that over the years, consumers are generally in the mood to splurge or spend money, and they buy gifts during this time, during the festive season. So in order to build relationships, what the companies, in order to kind of prompt you to purchase, in order for the company to kind of drive you to buy a particular good, what they do is they use the method of enticing you with discount cards, offers, and that is a way of starting a relationship or a communication to get engaged with their products and services, right? If you see an advert on the television, some of the adverts that you get to see are adverts which talk about the product. Say, for example, let's look at Jet2 Holidays, right? Just as an example. Jet2 Holidays, they advertise a lot of their holidays using various different kinds of ad with catchy music, with plush locations, and everything. The reason why they want to show it is that they say they want to sell this concept of a very happy holiday that you can have with Jet2 Holidays. Let's look at another advert. Let's look at the advert, say, for example, which talks about, let's say, it talks about a particular benefit. And that advert, when I would say is, we look at the advert, say, for example, of ATHE. Now, ATHE generally does not advertise, right? But when they advertise, they always highlight the phrase or their tagline, which is always low prices, right? You will see a lot of adverts being done during the festive season, which ATHE will also do, because they will want to get more and more customer walk-ins happening to their stores, which will drive more sales. So in order for them to start that interaction, what they will do is they will advertise or talk about a lot of offers in the advertising that you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So what they will do is they will say, okay, if you buy 2 packs, you get this free. You buy this, you get that free. You buy this, you get it just 50% off on that. And that kind of advertising is starting off a discussion, even if it's an informal discussion, but it is conscious or unconsciously, you are aware that you're starting off, and that is building a recall in your mind that if I need to go out and buy some chocolates, I'll buy Roche Ferros, because for the festive season, instead of a normal pack, the pack has 25% more. And what that has done is the 25% more offer, which has been put across as a message on advertising, has started to initiate unconsciously an action in your mind that when you go out and buy, this is what you need to buy. And that helps in the building up of relationship, which will lead to them getting you to the store and getting more sales in that weekly shop that you're going to do, because of the messaging that they're sending out.
Right.
Is that okay? Is that clear enough? Now, what we also will look at is, you will come across this particular term, when we are talking about principles of marketing. What is marketing? Definition of marketing. We're looking at the different routes and mediums through which marketing is done, and what are the activities which are utilized in the process of marketing. So things like when we talk about research, when we talk about say, for example, advertising, sales and promotion that we are discussing right now, these are all activities that you have to do to get the process of marketing started, to get the process of buying and selling started. Now, one of the other things that we will get to here is, we need to know marketing as a term, but we also need to know what is a market. We also want to understand what is a marketing system, right? Because these are activities which are done again and again, a company has to set a process or a system in place so that these things can be done month on month, week on week, year on year basis. So Christmas does not come this year, it comes every year. Easter holidays do not happen just in 1 year, they happen every year. So what they have to do is they have to put a system in place that when we are nearer to that time interval, what in that process of doing is, we are in the process of starting off that activity by default in order to engage with our customer, to build a relationship, to get the sales, to get the products and services to sell. And that is where we need to understand what are markets and marketing systems. So markets are basically the set of actual and potential buyers of a product. So what is a market? When you say, my consumers are my market. If you don't have customers, the problem is, then in that case, the products will not get sold. So your market is potentially consisting of your customers or people who buy your products and services. So if I say that when we look at, for example, let's take an example of say Next, or let's take an example of McDonald's, for example. Now, McDonald's clearly knows its market. Now, when it says that sentence, we know our market, what do they mean? They actually want to say we know our customers. Who are our customers? What type of customers come in and eat the food? When they want to eat the food, they know them quite well. So when they say and make a statement that we know our market, is that they understand in the market who's the competitor, who's the consumer. They understand, the demographics of it. They understand the income levels. They understand the markets in which they are working, operating, suppliers, everything. So that is a sum total of everything which works under the umbrella of marketing. So when we say Mercedes-Benz knows its market or knows its consumers, that means they know which consumers they need to market the product to. Now, when this set of activities happen again and again, what we are looking at is there is a system which the companies have to put in place to make sure that this happens automatically on an annual, on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis. And that system that they put in place, which is a system in terms of process, in terms of, roles and responsibilities, activities, which make this message go out to consumers, suppliers, partners, is nothing but a marketing system. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Now, the other bit that we look at is when we talk about marketing system, because every company's activities, every business as an its activities can be affected by internal and external factors. This is something that we looked at when we looked at Unit 1 in business environment. You had something called macro factors and micro factors. So macro factors are factors which affect your business from outside. So in the case of marketing, if you do see that ATHE started to advertise quite aggressively, there are lots of adverts coming, they're advertising a lot of products. What you'll get to see is that this will trigger off some sort of a mechanism wherein Sainsbury's, Tesco, Lidl, Aldi, whatever the other retailers are, Morrison, they will also be prompted to advertise or, talk about their products and services and offers, because it puts a pressure on them as a competitor to see that there is one which is going to shout out loud and is going to run away with all the sales because the revenues are going to increase and all. But if we do not advertise and counteract this message using the system in place, there is no way that we'll be able to capitalize on the festive season sales. So these factors which affect the business from outside will be called as macro factors, and these factors can be grouped into something called political, social, economical, socio-political, and technological. Okay, you will see that. So example here is, I think I'm pretty sure you have seen that over the years, what you have seen in Tesco and ATHE stores is there's a creation of self-checkout counters. Correct?
Yeah, right.
The reason why self-checkout counters have been created is that they know that there are so many tills in the store and they cannot look at increasing the tills because there's a physical limitation. So what they've tried to do now is they've tried to create tills wherein customers can do self-checkout. And what they get to see, because of this self-checkout is that because of the use of technology, this has helped some set of customers who come into their stores, are very familiar with technology, are able to self-checkout using those self-checkout counters. And that in general has improved to a certain extent the queuing up and the efficiency of people going through the tills because of the creation of these self-checkouts. Right? Now, some of the other terms, so going back and forth, but just looking at very briefly covering some of the other terms that we want to look at today. What is marketing management? So we now know the concept of marketing. What is marketing? What are the activities that are involved in marketing? What is the definition of marketing management? So the moment we attach the term manage, that means we are attaching somebody who is in a position to be able to manage this process or manage the set of activities that we are doing on a weekly, monthly, annual basis of reaching out to consumers. So marketing management is nothing but an art and science of choosing target markets and building profitable relationship with them. So somebody who is working as a marketing manager will have the ability to be able to understand reports, statistical data, competition data, and also how as a company they are doing in terms of selling their products and services, and would be able to come to some sort of a conclusion by putting some calculations together to say that this side of business is going to be profitable, this side of business is going to be expanding. And that art of managing and able to forecast and work things out from a point of view of future perspective, future things which are going to happen in the future would be termed as something called marketing management. And here the persons or people who are looking at the concept of marketing management, or people who are in the position where they can manage and foresee what is happening, would be in a position to kind of understand that what are the trends which are going to shape up in the future, what kind of customers they will serve, and what kind of needs and demands or preferences which these customers will have over a point in time as their products and services evolve. The process, when I say marketing system, we are talking about a system which a lot of companies can follow. But the moment we talk about management, what we are saying is a process which has been defined within a particular organization would then be termed as something called marketing management. Is that okay? Yeah. So here, what I would say is, when we look at a business, when we say market, we are talking about market in, say, for example, markets in Manchester. When we talk about marketing system, we talk about a system which is employed by most companies within the UK. But when we talk about management, it is talking about this particular function of the function of marketing happening within an organization with a focus to practically implementing the marketing activities for the benefit of one organization, right? And that person who is able to manage that as a function would be something, will be somebody who is in the position of a manager. And when he manages this as a function within an organization of just managing marketing, would be a person managing marketing management. Okay. If I look at finance, there are lots of departments within a company: finance, administration, reception, engineering, production, whatever. But somebody who's managing just the function of marketing will be somebody who's managing this as a manager for that particular organization. So the concept of management would be looking at just managing that particular set of activities which are required to grow the business or maybe the products and services for the organization. Now, two other bits that we will look at before we stop and close this session would be looking at just these key terms of market segmentation and target marketing. Now, when marketers, people who understand the concept and process of marketing, when they divide markets into segments of customers, is nothing but the process of market segmentation, right? When we look at, there is something called demographic classification. I don't know whether you had something called demographic classification.
I don't, sir.
Have you, because when we do census, for example, what we look at is the census. When it is done, it looks at the income level, the levels that your study, your educational background, your income levels, and things like that. So there's something called a social grade classification that we look at, and this is important when marketers look at market segmentation. So if you're looking at Ferrari, for example, the car that you want to look at buying, Ferrari would look at segmenting their customers on the basis of their income level, on the basis of their education background. And the reason why they want to look at some of these factors is they want to come to a particular conclusion that whether that customer has affordability or not, right? I want to buy, say, for example, a Ferrari as well, but do I have the affordability? How would you check that? So companies look at something called demographic classification, and that demographic classification is something which is recognized as a social grading, and that is A, B, C1, C2, D, and E. So somebody who's A and B means people who are in higher and intermediate managerial, administrative, professional occupations. People who are, for example, when I say higher intermediate, that means people who are either directors, principals, general managers, own a business, are qualified to a bachelor's degree, have income levels, at the, matching these positions, would be classified as somebody who are in social grade of A and B. People who are in C or C1, C2 are basically people who work within the lower management, frontline services, administrative services, professional occupations. For example, when you look at people who are working within the financial sector, look at the retailing sector, they would be classified as people having, in the classification of something with C1 and C2. And the D and E are classified as people who work in semi-skilled jobs, are unskilled or unskilled jobs, are unemployed, and are living, are basically looking at a minimum living wage, which is 18,600. So when you look at segmenting customers who want to buy, your products and services, what you're looking at doing is you're looking at understanding this social grading so that you can market and orient your message to reach that consumer, to reach that right consumer. Is that okay? So that is the process of segmentation. Now let's look at the process of targeting the market, target audience. This is a term called target audience. Now, what this also means is when you want to do a particular, promotional activity or particular activity, what you have to look at is you have to look at how you want to target that consumer. Whether you will go across through a television advert, whether you'll go across through a flyer, whether you will do a road show, either you're going to do a telephone call, email. What you want to be able to do is you want to identify the target audience that you want to reach out, right? So look at the simple example of a takeaway in, say, for example, in Rochdale. Now, over the weekend, on Friday evenings, you get a lot of leaflets coming through your door, isn't it? Sometimes you get these flyers and leaflets coming through your door because what most of the local businesses in that area know is that over the weekend, people tend to eat out or they order food in or takeaways. So that kind of an activity increases in terms of leaflet drops or drops of basically the flyer drops at your home, because they know that on the weekends people are generally within the mood to either eat out, or takeaways or order takeaways, and you get to see that increase in activity happening only from a local restaurateur or from a takeaway shop in the area, which has that catchment to be able to deliver within a mile, 2 mile, or 3 mile radius, isn't it? You wouldn't probably have somebody, a lead coming in from another location of a restaurant in your area when they know by the time they deliver the food will become cold and it won't be able to, they won't be able to deliver it on time. So that is basically understanding the concept of something called target audience. Now, what we are going to do is stop here, but what I'm going to do is email you this particular presentation, and it has a couple of slides that we are going to cover through to cover the learning outcome 1 itself in the next session. Right? And what we're looking at doing is, in that context, we're looking at understanding the marketing mix. And that marketing mix is important to understand because we want to know when you advertise, when you sell, when you get the message out there, how do you decide which products, what price, which promotion, what type of promotion, and what type of place you want to go to, and that is something called a marketing mix. But over the years, the marketing mix has evolved from 4 Ps to 7 Ps, and this is a particular handout which is a good handout for you to understand, the marketing mix. So I'm going to try and send you this handout which summarizes and gives you some concise reading on what we've covered so far, in starting from the definition of marketing and why do we need marketing, and then it will cover some of the other bits like the 7 Ps that we are going to discuss in the next session. Okay, so we're going to use handout and some of the slides which start with segmentation in particular, that we are going to look at from this bit here. So slide 46. which starts with market segmentation and it gets into something called, the 4 Ps of marketing expanding to 7 Ps. Okay. So, and I will try and get back to you with regards to some feedback on your first draft of the assignment. And then what we will do is we will catch up on the usual day, Tuesday, 2:30 for our next session.
Sorry, sir.
Okay. Thank you, guys.